Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shouting Over Static. This is a different episode of Shouting Over Static because this week it's just me, and it's going up late, and it's probably not going to be very long. We had some organisational troubles this week, and so I'm here, Mark, and I'm just going to sort of chat about some games I've been playing for the next, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. We'll see how long until I get bored, really. And then we'll stop. We'll talk about news next week. I'm not going to talk about news, although it's just going to be me reading articles of Kotaku, and that's not really interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll call this an SOS Extra, and it'll go up like that, and I don't know what's going to come out of that, really. So, what have I been playing? In honour of a couple of good games coming out, I haven't actually been playing a lot of recent releases, apart from Destiny 2 Forsaken, which I picked up, along with the previous two expansions, which I didn't play, and I picked it up on the Xbox One. So I previously played it on the PlayStation 4, which means that I'm starting a brand new character, and I chose not to use the level skip because I fancied playing through some of that campaign again because I remember it being alright. And yeah, so I don't really actually have anything to talk about with regards to Forsaken content, apart from, I guess, the only Forsaken content I have got to play with is the weapon slots being variable. So now your primary, secondary, and power weapons can be mixed around somewhat. The only real difference it's shown that I found for me really is that now, instead of carrying, say, an energy scout rifle, I can carry an energy sniper rifle, and it uses up 150 rounds of scout rifle ammo in about 10 shots, which so far hasn't seemed hugely tactically viable to me. There's definitely there is an ammo imbalance in Destiny 2 with the way that they weight power weapons. That means that now that they're not power weapons, I'm using air quotes here liberally, they seem to be almost even less tactically viable. Though also being able to say, well, I want to have a shotgun and a rocket launcher is a nice bit of sort of tactical versatility, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm up to Titan, which is, I think the fourth or fifth mission of the campaign. Uh, so yeah, not very far in at all, but it is so far enjoyable. Playing it on the Xbox One is a bit strange. I didn't remember the aiming on the PlayStation 4 being quite so. I guess the technical term is finicky. But I find that I over aim quite dramatically no matter what I set the sensitivity to on the sensitivity options. And I wonder if it's to do with the sticks on the Xbox One controller being different to the sticks on the PlayStation 4 controller. Now, on the other hand, the triggers on the Xbox One controller are different to the ones on the PS4 controller, and I personally think the triggers on the Xbox One controller are fantastic. So, the moment to moment shooting of Destiny 2 remains excellent. I mean, that's not really a surprising thing to say, is it? The shooting is the only thing in Destiny that anyone seems to be able to get right consistently at any point in the 4 years that Destiny has been a video game series. I'm playing as a warlock this time again. I played as a hunter the first time through the Destiny 2 campaign. So playing as a warlock, I'm trying to go for something different, but I'm just not far enough in to really notice any significant differences. My understanding is there are new supers in the Forsaken content, but I haven't looked at those yet. So yeah, kind of my check-in on Destiny 2, and I'm sure Dylan will have a far more nuanced check-in on Destiny 2 Forsaken because he's just jumped into Forsaken with a character that was up to that point. So I'm still a fair few hours out from that, but I think my take on it is just that the changes to the weapon slots seem like they could be very beneficial. But as it stands, I am not really seeing the true advantage of putting the sniper rifle or shotgun in that energy weapon slot just because they chew through ammo at such a precipitous rate. And I just don't necessarily know if that's the right thing to have in that secondary weapon slot, especially when you also have the power weapon slot, which are weapons that intentionally do need to chew through ammo at a precipitous rate. And so before you know it, the only gun you have that ever has any amount of ammo to deal with just like mobs, your adds, your additionals, or whatever you want to call them, is your primary weapon slot. I suppose, it is your primary weapon, but yeah, I don't know. It's different. At the moment, I'm choosing not to carry a sniper rifle or shotgun in that secondary slot. Perhaps that will change as I play further through the game. I'm excited to get into the Warmind campaign because I've heard that's pretty good. And the war mines are some of the most interesting part of Destiny lore by a huge margin. But again, not there yet. And then I've heard Forsaken's pretty good as well, but I'm not there yet either. So in reality, this is kind of a pointless check-in on Destiny 2. That is one of the things I've been playing, but as I said, I've been playing a number of different games. When the No Man's Sky expansion came out, I started playing No Man's Sky for the first time. And it's actually pretty good. It's a survival game. I mean, I think anybody who thought it was going to be otherwise at the time was being foolish. But it is enjoyable, I find. It's good to kill some time in it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. And that is definitely what it is. It's a time killing game. You go into it. I've played it almost exclusively with Netflix on in the background. It's that kind of game. You put Netflix on, you bomb around the galaxy, and you go and look at things and build things and collect things, and it's like almost like a toy. It's like a fidget spinner that's a bit more complicated. It's just when you want to do something else, but you want to have your hands busy, you can jump in, you can play No Man's Sky, and you can just kind of potter around the galaxy. That's not really actually that much of a glowing review, is it? To say that it's like a digital fidget spinner, but it's kind of what it is. Looks good. I'm playing it on a 1440p monitor, 144 hertz, and it seems to be running very, very well. Looks great. Nice sense of scope and color and vibrancy. Passing some of those menus in the first few hours was brutal. Trying to understand those menus was really, really tough because it doesn't do a particularly great job of explaining them or straight up. It kind of gives you a few missions that show you different parts of it and makes you put the structure and the actual usage of the menus together in your own head. Really, it's it's not the way I'd have done it, but I guess also I didn't make No Man's Sky, so whatever. Not a huge amount to say about that really. Again, it's an old game, and I haven't even really seen. Well, I don't know. My understanding is actually I have seen a fair chunk of the new content, as it were, but they've been put out 3 or 4 big updates to that game in the 2 years since it came out. So I don't really know what's new and what's not, other than I don't know. It seems fine to me. I think I can see why people would have been pissed, but also people got way, way too excited about that game in the first place. They should have seen that coming, really. I guess hindsight's 2020. In honor of Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out next month, I decided that I'd try and finish Red Dead Redemption 1, something that I had never done. I'm further than I've ever been before. I'm nearing, at a rapid pace, the conclusion of the Mexico chapter of Red Dead Redemption, and fuck, man, that game holds up. Some of the animation looks a bit stilted. I'm playing on the PlayStation 3, it's worth saying. I already owned it on the PlayStation 3. It's where I played the first 7 or 8 missions the first time through. I was going to play it as backwards compatible on the Xbox One, but to buy it, an Xbox 360 copy of that game was like 20 quid. I thought, fuck it, don't need to do that. Recently, they actually put it on sale for like £8, which I kind of wish I could have done now. Because, yeah, there's one problem with Red Dead Redemption 1. It's that playing it on a PlayStation 3 at 720p, it just it looks a bit blurry. It doesn't keep a constant frame rate. It's not even a constant 30. It can get quite choppy. Some of the draw distance is a bit off. Some of the aliasing is just a bit off. So it doesn't feel like the optimal way to experience that game. But I also think it says a hell of a lot that even now, 8 years later, playing it in the probably the worst way to play it as you can now, which is on the original target hardware. So you get all of the warts and all, as they say. It's still a bloody good game. Going into Deadeye and targeting people, still great fun. The music's good, the horse riding is good, the weapons feel good, the writing is spot on. And I think actually I'll get back to that again in a bit. That Rockstar writing, because played another Rockstar game, obviously, because of course I did. Yeah, Red Dead Redemption. The more and more I play that first game, the more hyped I am to see what Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to be like, because the game's pretty good, and it's got a sense of world and place and writing and style to it that it's excellent. It's really, really excellent. I don't have much more to say about that. That hasn't been said 1,000 times before in the last 8 years of that game being considered one of the greatest games of all time. So the other Rockstar game I was playing, GTA 5 for the PC, went on sale for the first time in ages. It seemed to be the cheapest I've ever seen it anyway. Uh, so I picked it up because I wanted to see what it would be like to play a Grand Theft Auto game as a mouse and keyboard first person shooter. And I thought, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to go mouse and keyboard the whole time. First person shooting, like running around, first person, all the vehicles. I'm going to make this a first person video game. Just to see what it's like, because that sounds like a fun experiment. And they put a lot of detail into it. And so I did. And the default maximum FOV in GTA 5 is like looking through a toilet roll tube. It's so small. It's unusably small. I had to immediately mod the game to get the FOV up to something more reasonable. And when I did, I played it as a first-person shooter for a bit. And you know what? They've put a incredible amount of detail into that game. It plays wonderfully in first person. The aiming works. The driving works. The running and jumping, shooting works. What I would have liked to see is them redoing some of the cutscenes so that if you went into a cutscene in first person, you could see it from first person. Obviously, I'm sure there are some cutscenes later on from memory that don't have the player character in, so they couldn't do this. But it's been since it came out, since I played the game through all the way to the end, so I don't quite remember. But in these early cutscenes, at least up to 5, 6, 7 missions in or whatever, all the cutscenes feature the player character, whoever that player character may be. So I think there would have been some value in seeing if you could do those cutscenes from a first person perspective, because going from first person back out to third person again is quite jarring, and jumping in and out of that is quite jarring. I ended up stopping that particular attempt though, because I can't drive in first person. The FOV just isn't enough to drive in first person. Even whacking it up to like a sickeningly high level of FOV and put my face right up to the computer, it's just driving in first person is really, really tough. Especially when you have 20 plus years of driving in third person in video games is like understanding the spatial awareness around cars and vehicles as you drive around. So I just couldn't handle it. So eventually I gave up, and now I'm just playing GTA 5 in third person, but with a mouse and keyboard because that's all right, I guess. And it looks good, runs well, plays nicely. But what I meant to say is, yeah, the writing in it. I have been down on GTA 5 since it came out because I think there are huge swaths of the story in GTA 5 that are basically unimportant and could be removed with a scalpel from the story and it wouldn't change the overall plot in any way. The film, Hollywood, Vinewood directing stuff comes to mind. And I've also been really down on the quality of the writing because I think a lot of the incidental humour in GTA 5, like the Facebook and Twitter knockoffs and the iPhone knockoff and that kind of thing, that is something they've been doing for years and years since GTA 3, really. I mean, I knew it the best. I knew a lot of those jokes and that humour the best in San Andreas, but in reality, yeah, they've been doing those jokes for years. I didn't think they were as good in GTA 5. I felt a bit like it was kind of beating a dead horse. It was the Hauser brothers just going, ha ha, look at how silly Americans are, ha ha ha. And at some point, it's like you can't do the same joke 6 games in a row and it still be a funny joke. Uh, that in mind, I forgot just how good the moment to moment conversational writing and dialogue in GTA 5 was. Like, it's the way that Michael speaks to his family, and the way that Franklin and Lamar interact, and the way that Franklin and Michael interact, and the way that Franklin and Jimmy interact is it's just incredible. It's so natural and rich and compelling, and I just forgot how good a job the game does of once you get through that introductory heist in North Yankton, which now I'm not even sure is the best way to open that game. Once you just get into Los Santos and you're playing as Franklin and you're doing some repo and you're going around all this stuff, it does such a good job of putting you in a living, breathing world, and the way the character lives overlap and interact. Obviously, like Franklin goes and robs a car from Michael's house, and that's how they meet and that kind of stuff. And the way those worlds mesh and how you bump into incidental characters in the street and how you switch to Michael, you do a Michael mission, and then the Michael mission involves Franklin, and then you bump into Franklin, he's wearing different clothes because time has passed and things like that. It is good. I feel like I've been down on GTA 5 in a way that maybe I shouldn't have. Though I do hope in my heart of hearts that for GTA 6, when it happens, not if, they make some sort of attempt to, well, to do something a bit more like Vice City or San Andreas and to do another period piece, be it time or place. You know, it's been a while since we've had a getaway game. You could have GTA London again. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But the world, to get all political for a second, the world at the moment already seems somewhat like a satire of itself. And so just having another GTA game set in the year 2020 in some major US city analog with all of the same shit and all of the same parodies of things, and there will hands down, if they do that, there will be some sort of Elon Musk-esque character. Everyone fucking knows it, and he'll be. And I don't necessarily know if that's going to be funny anymore. I think doing that trick, GTA 4, GTA 5, they did it again. I feel like it would just come across as depressing. Whereas if they could go and do another period piece, if they could go and do another something similar to Vice City or San Andreas or GTA London, or even, let's be honest, Red Dead Redemption is effectively a Grand Theft Auto period piece. Especially that first one, like a lot of the writing style and stuff is very, very similar. So I think that could be excellent. I don't know. GTA 5 is a good game. Fun fact: GTA 5 is rad. Finally, a game that maybe isn't very good, but I've been chipping away at because I need to know. Mass Effect Andromeda. I didn't start playing it till this year because I had other shit to deal with. And oh, Mass Effect Andromeda. Playing it so far after its release means that I have managed to avoid a lot of the release problems that it had. So I've not had any performance issues or bugs or glitches or anything like that that plagued the initial release of the game. On the other hand, what I have had is just this continual, overwhelming, smothering sense of disappointment and wasted potential. Mass Effect 1 does such a stellar, pardon the pun, job of introducing and establishing a huge galaxy full of different creatures, and it sets a tone and a style, and it it draws on all the tropes that have been established by 40 plus years of science fiction preceding it, and it uses those tropes both to great effect and also at some points subverts them to so deftly generate a really rich and textured sci-fi universe. And then it uses those through that universe through the first, second, and third games, and it uses it to good effect. You know, those games have problems. I do genuinely believe that not any of them are perfect. You know, one is an old school RPG and it has mechanical problems, and two, though it is an excellent self-contained story, it cuts back on too much of the RPG, and in the gift of hindsight, 2 doesn't actually affect the overarching plot of the story really in any way, so it leaves 3 to tie up. So 2 games worth of loose ends, and then 3 does exactly that and comes across feeling like a rushed, flawed product for how hard it tries to tie up those loose ends. And that's a shame, obviously, because, you know, it's the end of a trilogy and it should be triumphant, whereas it feels uh, more prescriptive, like, well, you need one of these things, and you need one of these things, and you need one of these things because you need to clean all these things up, and yada yada yada. I can go on about that. That's not what this is about. Mass Effect Andromeda had an opportunity to take the style of Mass Effect, the universe and concepts that Mass Effect had established with Element Zero and the powers and the tech and that kind of shit, and transpose it into a whole new galaxy that did not need any of the baggage of the previous games. That could have been a hard cut. And I understand why they had to include Asaris and Turians and Krogans and what have you. But, oh, it fucking sucks. It sucks because I've spent 10, 15 hours now in that game going to planets and investigating, and I spend all my time talking to Asaris and Krogans and not Vex, that's Destiny. Asaris and Krogans and Solarians and Turians and all these other races that I'm familiar with already. I'm thinking, I'm in a whole new galaxy. There needs to be more, and I understand that there are new alien races in the game and that kind of thing, but it just feels like so much wasted potential, because it could have been the next new step. It could have been the next big thing in RPGs. And instead it's just kind of like a wet fart, like a rehash of everything that Mass Effect was before. And it's pretty disappointing. Such a waste of potential. Okay, I've talked for 20 minutes about video games. Yeah, this was a weird episode of Shadow Static, but I guess enjoy. We've been having some problems with our video encoder, so this won't go up on the YouTube for a bit, and neither has the previous episode. So if you're watching the YouTube, I'm sorry, you're going to be shit out of luck for a bit till I work that out. However, we are still on SoundCloud, we are still on iTunes, so check us out on SoundCloud at Shouting Over Static, on iTunes at Shouting Over Static. Thank you for listening. Bye.